Back with you on the Sunday now. The DA has called on government to account following the escape of convicted murderer and Facebook rapist Thabo Bester. This after it emerged that the burnt-out DNA remains of a prisoner. We're not that of Bester, who has since been spotted in public after he wrongly was being declared dead. For more on this, we're joined now by DA Correctional Services spokesperson Janho Engelbrecht. Janho, good to have you. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. What do you think happened here? I mean, of course, except for what we're hearing coming from the news agency, Ground Up, who have conducted some rather stellar work as far as investigating this particular matter.
Yes, no, this is a very serious allegations that were made, and but just firstly, the facility where Thabo Bester escaped from is not run by the Department of Correctional Services. It is one of those private prisons that is administered by G4S. So just to be clear, that this is not a Department of Correctional Services facility, firstly. But I have visited a similar facility in Limpopo province, and I must say that this is maximum security facilities, and it is humanly impossible to escape from such a facility without receiving help from inside. It cannot happen. So it's very clear that there is huge shortcomings and criminal activity involved here that we want investigated by the police service. And this is not a matter for an internal investigation. This is criminal cases that needs to be investigated by the South African Police Service, and if there's enough evidence, the guilty parties should be prosecuted criminally, because this is a criminal case. Now, there's two things that bothers me, and I think most people. Apparently, the escape of Thabo Bester was brought to the attention of the Deputy Minister. Now, if this is in fact so, we will see after an investigation, but if this is in fact the case, there needs to be some work needs to be done in the office of the Deputy Minister. Obviously, there's lots of emails that comes to the Deputy Minister's email address, but there must be a system where things that's important like this is brought to his personal attention, which at this stage it seems did not happen. So that's the first thing that bothers me greatly. And then obviously the shortcomings from a privately run prison, that needs to take care of maximum security. It's dangerous individuals. That something like this can happen, and there's a murder took place in that facility, and that was apparently covered up. So there's lots and lots of questions.
So I mean, explain to me from the committee's point of view, what are the circumstances that would lead to a prisoner that otherwise should be in our correctional services a network to be taken to a privately run facility?
Look, there's a number of these privately run facilities, and the contracts were entered into many years ago. I think some of them are coming up for an end, and the department already indicated that the department has no desire to extend these contracts. So all of these facilities will revert back into the auspices of Correctional Services itself, which I think is probably for the best, because if it's a privately run institution, the amount and the effectiveness of the oversight that you can do on those facilities is a bit limited, because obviously you have to inform them. There's no surprise visit. I can't just go there and say, listen, I just want to see what's going on here. So you have to inform them beforehand, and then obviously all the ducks will be in a row when you arrive there. As we saw when we last year we visited a facility of this nature in the Limpopo province, and I mean, it was sterling, everything perfect, but obviously if they can prepare before you come, well, you know, there's not much that you'll be able to see.
So if the expectation is that every manager of these facilities, whether privately owned or otherwise, for example, should take up accountability for the overall execution, for example, of human rights in how we treat prisoners in South Africa, does it then extend to say, equally, if something goes wrong, like this time around, we don't know whether the prisoner was alive when the prisoner was burnt, or it was just a dead body where they acquired this dead body of a prisoner that was burnt in that fire. Somebody needs to account for that, but also their escape in itself. Does it goes then to say that the manager of the facility would need to be taking accountability for that?
Of course. Now, G4S has a lot of explaining to do, and I'm very sure that the Department of Correctional Services will also be very interested in this. But however, disturbingly, this was kept away from the Portfolio Committee. I mean, I read about it in the media, which is not the way that these things are supposed to happen. I do understand that there's some challenges relating to the private facility, but nonetheless, you know, the accountable department is the Department of Correctional Services. G4S is a service provider, and they need to account for what goes wrong in those facilities. And I mean, Thabo Bester had access to, for instance, social media in a maximum security prison. How is that possible? You know, that's not supposed to happen. A variety of other things that raises serious question marks. So I'm very sure that we will shortly have a discussion about this in the Portfolio Committee, and G4S needs to come and account for what they do, what's going on there.
Yeah. The economic freedom fighters have called this particular instance a testament to the incompetence of the correctional services system and the endemic corruption in the sector. Do you share that view?
Look, there's a lot of problems in correctional services. I will not say that it is totally dysfunctional. There's an entire volume of the Zondo Commission only concentrating on Bosasa and everything that the correctional service had to endure during state capture. That's well known. But I visited a lot of facilities, and I must say there's a lot of good, hard-working, honest people in correctional services. And you can't take some events and say, well, these things are wrong, and now all of a sudden the entire department is not dysfunctional. There's huge problems, there's huge amounts of work that lies ahead that, you know, this department needs to clean itself up after the Bosasa and all of those things that happened. But to say that it is in total disarray and dysfunctional, I think it's taking it a bit far.
Yeah. I mean, from what we're hearing so far from the investigation, of course not from the police, but from the news agency, is that this particular prisoner is a man of means. I mean, at some point was able to even hold a media conference, right, in prison, which in itself will tell you that there was a lot of money that would have been involved in this particular network of money being exchanged. I mean, the whole idea of this particular escape does seem to mean there's a whole lot of money still pretty much playing a role in the correctional services system in the country. How rife is that situation?
Look, I don't know. To be honest, we don't know what the extent of this is. And one of the big challenges that we face is that many years ago, the Department of Correctional Services and Department of Justice were put together in one ministry, and then the legislative arm of government in Parliament decided to have one portfolio committee. So, you know, the workload is of such a nature that it's very difficult to get to everything, because it's not only the two departments that our portfolio committee has to look after. I mean, we have the MPA, the SIU, Human Rights Commission, Legal Aid South Africa. There's a whole array of things. And the amount of time I think that is spent on especially or specifically correctional services issues is fairly limited. It's maybe once in 2 weeks that we get to meet and speak about correctional services related matters. And the amount of work that we have to deal with only on correctional services, there is just not enough time to go through all of these things. That's why you will find that things will fall through the cracks like this. And I think that's a testament to the portfolio committees maybe not set up correctly, or it could be better. I think correctional service should have a portfolio committee only dedicated to correctional service and maybe the judicial inspectorate for correctional services. And that's it, not all of these other things as well.
Are you not concerned, though, that we seemingly on the back foot here? I mean, if this matter was initially reported on the 3rd of May in 2022, and again, some anomalies, I beg your pardon, picked up by a news agency in November 2022, that it's only today in March 2023 that Correctional Services can certainly come up and confirm to us that this DNA is not that of Thabo Bester.
It is scandalous. And, you know, from where I'm sitting, you know, it very much looks like some kind of a cover-up, which I hope is not the case. But it would seem, you know, if you look at the information that is currently available, it certainly seems like that. Because if something happened more than a year ago and we only find out about it now, and apparently the minister has been informed, purportedly, you know, why wasn't this brought to the committee? Why wasn't it discussed here? I mean, myself and my colleagues that serves on this portfolio committee read daily. We read about it in Daily Maverick while we were sitting in Parliament. We said, well, gee, what the hell is this? You know, and surprises like that should not come to members of a portfolio committee that deals with correctional services. That is not the way it's done.
Yeah. Is there, I suppose you're saying you're still going to talk about this, and of course there's still more that's going to come out of it, but is there in the interim any particular thinking from the Democratic Alliance of what process should be followed here, an inquiry of some sort, or are you still at this point relying on the institutions, on the police, to do the investigations?
Well, the police needs to do the investigation because it's their mandate and their constitutional mandate to do so. However, what we've done, we've submitted a whole series of questions specifically related to this matter to the minister as official questions, and just to share more light on what exactly happened here and why did it take so long. And why was it covered up? What's the reason behind it? 16 questions in all, and we will first wait to get info, because look, we can't speculate on these things. We need to ascertain what exactly the facts are, and then take it from there, because, you know, speculation is not going to get us anywhere.
Janho Engelbrecht, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. That is the DA's Correctional Services Shadow Minister, spokesperson there, speaking on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, but also part of that portfolio committee on correctional services.